Pacific Rim 2 Uprising. So, before we get underway, I enjoyed Pacific Rim 1, which Pacific Rim Uprising is a sequel to. And pretty much everything that I really enjoyed about Pacific Rim 1 is what I don't like in Pacific Rim 2, and vice versa. So, Pacific Rim 2 Uprising follows the story of John Boyega's character, Jake. Pentecost, I believe is his name. He is the son of Idris Elba's character from Pacific Rim 1. And so we follow him, and it's unfortunately it's like a super cliche story about the son of a very like well-known or legendary-ish type character, and he kind of has to live up to those expectations, and he kind of denies him at first, but then he ends up finding out that, oh, actually he really is just like his father. And we kind of go along that. And it also follows the story of a little girl. I believe her name is Aurora. I don't quite remember. I wasn't actually too fond of her, to be entirely honest with you. I feel like she was probably one of the low points of the movie. But anyway, so following in the footsteps of Pacific Rim 1, where I think we're 10 years post. So the war with all the kaiju has been over and everything like that. And then we're kind of in this time of peace. And as we follow John Boyega's character, then he gets kind of intermingled in back with the Jaeger corps and everything like that, and has to get brought into that whole world, and then hijinks happen, and kaiju and Jaeger and fight. So all that stuff happens, a lot of action-y type stuff, and it's kind of it. As far as the movie itself, it's not that I don't or I didn't like this movie. Actually, it was fine. It wasn't like anything overly like over the top great or anything like that. I definitely didn't like it as much as I like Pacific Rim 1. Kind of getting into that, things that I did not like about the original Pacific Rim were mainly the characters. The characters in the story. I feel like in Pacific Rim 2, they went overly dark and they try to make it like super serious and everything like that. And I feel like in a big movie about big robots fighting big Japanese monsters, you kind of have to lose the dark, serious edge. But it was a Guillermo del Toro movie. Excuse me, I know I'm butchering that. And so all of his movies have that kind of darkness and weight to them. But what I felt like Pacific Rim got right was the kaiju and the Jaeger fights, the big giant robots and the fights. I thought all that stuff was awesome. Like, that was really the best parts of the movie. With the exception of Idris Elba's character, I thought all the character moments were super weak. The story was kind of lame and kind of all that. So you flash forward to Pacific Rim 2 Uprising, and I feel like they did a much better job with the character work. Like, John Boyega's character, I actually really enjoyed. Like, he is Idris Elba's son. Going into the movie, I wasn't going to be quite sure what I was going to think about him, because he's always kind of, like, schlubby in his movies, even in, like, Star Wars and stuff. He's always kind of that, like, he's reluctant, and he just kind of falls into things that happen and everything. But he really kind of takes command in this movie. He's a really strong presence, and I really enjoyed him. Unfortunately, I can't say that about many of the other characters. So you have Scott Eastwood's son, who plays just a kind of a, I won't say generic pilot, but he's a Jaeger pilot. He's John Boyega's character's partner. He's mostly unforgettable. He doesn't do anything really high, really highly low. He's there. He's fine. He's serviceable. We have, with the exception of, I believe her name is Mako or Mako. She comes back from the Pacific Rim 1. She's in here briefly. She was Idris Elba's adopted daughter, so John Boyega's adopted sister in this movie. So she's in it a little bit, but other than that, there's really only... excuse me. So we do have Charlie Day and the scientist from the first movie as well. But she's really only like main like serious character, and she's not in it a whole ton. Moving on to Charlie Day and the other scientist, who I just forget his name. Charlie Day's character is Newt. I did not like him. Not in this movie at all. I really enjoyed him in Pacific Rim 1. I thought he brought that like levity to the movie. Versus in this one, he's just kind of schlocky and just kind of the stereotypical, like, I don't want to get into it. It gets spoilerish, but I was not a fan of him. He was there, and they take him into a certain path that I just didn't agree with, and I just thought didn't really fit the character. And Charlie Day as an actor in general, I don't think it really worked well with him. Moving on past him, there's a very large emphasis on like the children actors and the children Jaeger pilots and like the cadets and everything in this movie, which we did have moments of that in the original movie, but this one they really are pushing that. But at the same time, we don't really see a lot of their like training and everything like that. We know what's happening. We know that's why John Boyega is there, is to help train them, but we don't really see a whole ton of it. It just kind of goes in between the scenes that stuff is happening. But they really like make this effort to say, hey, these kids are important. They're going to be Jaeger pilots and yada, yada, yada. But really, I just found all that stuff like really annoying. It was really just like a side plot that I just didn't find overly necessary. I don't think the payoff really worked. We're supposed to get almost like invested in these characters because things happen later in the movie, and I just didn't. Like, I didn't care. Like, stuff happens. Like, oh, okay, it's kid A, kid B, and kid C, who I'm supposed to care about more about than the other ones because she's been on screen more. Honestly, she really felt like the female young girl character from the most recent Transformers movie, the Junkyard one. I don't remember her name either. That movie was unforgettable, or forgettable, excuse me. So that's kind of how I felt about that on that aspect. And then moving into like the action scenes and things like that, there's not a whole lot. From what I remember, there is four main fights. I don't remember how many were in the original Pacific Rim, but I feel like there's quite a bit more than 4. And even the 4 that are in this movie, like 4 would be fine if they were just like great, amazing action scenes. But they really weren't. They were just kind of paint by the numbers. There was just stuff going on just to have stuff going on. All in all, I feel like they really they tried to make this one very friendly, like to everybody, like as an entry point. Anybody can come watch Pacific Rim. We want Pacific Rim to be a thing, so we need a bunch of people to come watch it. And I kind of feel like they missed the mark on that, really. I feel like the people that are going to go see Pacific Rim, they want to go see Pacific Rim to see big, giant robots. And that's really it. We need a lot of that. We need like grand scale, like epicness in that. I mean, you need to really like follow the anime type influences and things like that and really get that feel for it. But I really feel like they're not focusing on that. They're focusing on like the story and everything, and the story is very paint by numbers. Like, it's very basic. So again, all in all, I wasn't overly fond of the movie. I definitely prefer Pacific Rim 1, which is really disappointing because I really enjoyed Pacific Rim 1. Is for as many problems as Pacific Rim 1 had, I still really enjoyed it because of those like action set pieces and things like that. Versus in this one, the things that I liked about it was John Boyega. Like, John Boyega's on screen, I enjoyed that stuff. John Boyega's not on screen, or they're doing something else, I didn't really enjoy it so much. They were more humorous in this one as opposed to the original, there was quite a bit of humor in the original one to kind of counterbalance that darkness and everything like that. But I feel like they went over the edge with humor in this one. Like, they're still trying to figure out that happy medium. And it's kind of disappointing because the director on this was Stephen DeKnight. I think this was his first actual like big directorial debut. He is very popular. He came from a Buffy background, so he was the showrunner on season 1 of Daredevil. And so I was really looking forward to seeing those kind of sensibilities, that kind of humor, and then that just kind of gritty, like hardcore action stuff from like Daredevil. But we didn't really get that, which is really unfortunate. So all in all, like I said, it's a meh. I'll give it a meh. But that's it, guys, and we will see y'all next time.